Hey everybody, I've noticed something. And this is what I've noticed, that sometimes well-intentioned Christians, we can make Christianity something harder, to be a part of than God intended. For example, have you ever noticed the sorts of things passionate Christians tend to get uptight about? They believe there is a right and a wrong way to worship, that there is information or a Bible verse you should have memorized. There is a way you should live your life if you want to be a real Christian. And when you do so, when we as Christians do this, we unintentionally set a bar for what it means to be a faithful Christian. We don't do it to purposely exclude some, but that's what happens. And when we do, we become what we've called accidental Pharisees. Many years ago here at the church, we discovered that we were missing the opportunity to reach a whole lot of our families in our community. You see, sports tournaments and activities, as you know, have families busier than ever on the weekends. And so here's what we did. We decided to add a modern worship service on Wednesday nights. Now, we didn't want people to have to choose between sports and their faith, and we wanted to make it convenient and in a style that would connect with kids and young families alike. And guess what? Today, that worship service on Wednesday night is the biggest service of the week here at Calvary. Well, shortly after we started that service, one of our dear elder members pulled me aside and made it clear that in her opinion, what happened on Wednesday night didn't count as real church. You see, real church could only happen on Sunday. To her way of thinking, we were making it far too easy for people to come to church. Sunday was the Lord's Day, after all, and she was livid that we wouldn't offer the only real style of worship that honors God, a service led with the pipe organ and chanting and pastors in robes. This woman was disgusted that we would make attending church more appealing, more convenient. She thought we were selling out. You see, for her, apparently, Sunday morning traditional worship was a great way, get this, to thin the herd, so to speak, to separate the wheat from the chaff. You see, she was convinced that by accommodating for busy schedules, we were giving in. As far as she was concerned, if those people who worshiped on Wednesday weren't willing to pay a higher price for their commitment to faith and get their butts in the pews on Sunday morning, they didn't deserve to be a part of our church. Well, when she left my office, I have to admit something. I burst out laughing, but then I wanted to cry. I burst out laughing because it was ridiculous. But then I wanted to cry because this woman had gone to church every Sunday for her entire life. She was gifted and deeply involved, but she had absolutely no understanding of God's grace and God's mercy. She thought they were both earned. You see, she was concerned that we were making it too easy for those who were not yet or new or young or struggling in their faith. She wanted to keep the less than fully committed out if they weren't willing to endure some pain, if you will. She believed this would make us a more pure church. She also, and I'm certain of this, she honestly thought she was doing the work of Jesus. She thought she was advocating for what Jesus would want. The problem is, she wasn't. She was doing the work of a Pharisee, accidentally, of course. She didn't mean to. She just sort of stumbled into it, and that's how it is for all of us. When I lived in St. Paul, I worked at a church where we realized we had to do a better job of reaching kids and young families in our community. It was an aging church in the city, and honestly, there weren't many young families attending anymore. So along the way, we started connecting with some high school boys who lived in the neighborhood around the church. Get this, they even started coming to worship on Sunday mornings. One day, much to my surprise, one of the high school boys, he turned to me and asked, "Hey, Pastor, how do we become one of those guys who hand out the flyers at the door?" You see, they wanted to become ushers. Well, we got them signed up, and they arrived on Sunday morning looking like teenage boys do who live in the city. They were wearing loudly colored high-top tennis shoes, baseball caps on sideways, and big baggy jeans. I got to be honest, I was ecstatic. We've got high school kids involved. Well, I came to find out that not everyone shared my enthusiasm. On Monday morning, the head usher marched into my office. He was appalled by these young men and their despicable appearance on Sunday. For him, we had a standard to uphold. The way we dress is a reflection of our love for and devotion to God. I probably don't have to tell you that the head usher always wore a crisp suit and tie to church every Sunday. Well, when he left my office, again, I laughed and I cried. I laughed because I didn't even dress as nice as this guy did on Sunday, and I'm guessing he probably had something to say about that as well. And again, I cried because this is someone who had gone to church for years, and yet he didn't get it. He was a highly committed Christian who was convinced that the way we make real, genuine Christians is by raising the bar. We've got a standard to uphold. We've got to up the ante. The problem is he wanted to raise it so high that it actually disqualified all but those who own a crisp suit. He was keeping the riffraff out. The riffraff Jesus actually calls us to reach. Again, don't get me wrong. I'm certain that he thought he was doing the work of Jesus. There's no doubt about that. The problem is he wasn't. He was doing the work of an accidental Pharisee. You know this. There's this tendency to make Christianity more and more exclusive, and it's the opposite of what Jesus offered. Rather than raising the bar, upping the ante, requiring more, Jesus came and offered rest. He offered a light burden, a yoke that was easy. Come to me, he said, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Folks, when you comb the teachings of Jesus, you never find this. No pain, no gain. It's not there. You find the opposite. Maybe that's why the message of Jesus is called good news. It's lighter, it's freeing, and maybe, just maybe those of us who are constantly wanting to demand more of those who call themselves Christian, maybe we're the ones who've missed the good news. Here are a couple of questions for you today. As you look at churches and Christians, are there any areas where you believe the bar needs to be raised in terms of what it means to follow Jesus? And why do you believe that? And secondly, here's another question. Are there times in your life when you were drawn toward a version of Christianity that emphasized thinning the herd more than expanding the kingdom? Folks, I hope you have a great discussion, and we'll see you again in session number 3.